Finance and Budget Committee is called to order, and the prayer and pledge tonight will be led by J.P. Butch Pond.
Thank you, Heavenly Father, for our opportunity to be here before the public, to serve the public. We thank you for all that we're blessed with in this great country. It's a bastion of freedom. We pray that we'd mind you in all that we say and do here this evening, that we would, our conduct, our actions would be pleasing to you, and in that way serve the people of Washington County and our communities. All these things in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Oh, just a minute. JP, Eva Madison has a summary of the revenues of the county that I would like her just to present. It won't take long at the end of the meeting. So we would have to add her to the agenda to do this presentation. Do I have a motion to add her?
So moved.
Second.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda as amended?
Motion to adopt. Second.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. The agenda has been adopted. All right. Our first person on the tonight is Joel Gardner from OZARK Regional Transit.
Good evening,
And-
ma'am. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. For the record, my name is Joel Gardner. I'm the Executive Director of OZARK Regional Transit. The only thing I'm doing here
Just a minute.
tonight...
I just want to say one thing.
Yes, ma'am.
Welcome.
Yes, ma'am.
I support you, but I'll not be able to. We have basically, at this point, said that we are not giving any raises or adding any new positions unless we can come up with the revenue to do it.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
we're going to hold our carryover at $3 million.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now
Yes,
you
sir.
may do your spiel.
Very good. The only thing I'm doing here tonight, ladies and gentlemen, is I'm answering the 5 questions that were posed to me from the last time I was here. There were 5 distinct questions. I reviewed the video a couple of times just to make sure that I got all the questions that I had noted, which I did. And the first question that was posed was, what small cities in the county have contributed? The answer to that is in 2019, the only city that has contributed is Farmington, and their contribution in 2019 is $5,000. We have invoiced other cities that had shown interest but have not gotten paid by any of the other cities. Question 2 was, under the new structure of providing demand response services to the citizens of Washington County, how many trips have been denied? As of the end of August of 2019, we have denied 256 demand response trips due to the limitations of funding and time or hours. So if somebody calls in for one trip and we've maxed out for that day, time period, or week, we will say, I'm sorry, there are no more trips available. And I did ask the staff, how are you guys dealing with that heat? Because it is heat at points in time. And they said we do everything we possibly can as politely as possible. And the one comment that was brought up by one of the staffers was, should we defer these questions to the quorum court? I said no. Flat out no. We're going to take the responsibility. I learned years ago the buck stops here. If somebody wants to dig any further on why we're not going to do it, or if they want to file any further complaints, whether it's with the ADA, whether if it was the FTA, the Federal Transit Administration, they can go ahead and file those complaints, but we're not going to pass the buck. I don't like finger pointing. The decision is the decision, and we are out of money and we are out of time. It's as simple as that. So that, the employees did ask about that today, and I said, no, we're not going to pass that buck. The next question, can't the citizens use a service like Uber instead? I heard something about a fair market. We should have fair market competition. And if you will actually look at, because there was a follow-up question later on, the first page beyond the title page, we were asked, what would it take for us to get 12 employees from Evansville, Arkansas, to Washington County Medical Center or Washington Regional Medical Center? On the day in question, I immediately went ahead and did the comparative with Uber and UberX and UberXL. Uber does not go out there. UberX will go out there, and also UberXL. The difference between Uber, UberX, and UberXL is Uber is generally a smaller vehicle, and it's pretty much a one-on-one trip-to-rider relationship. UberX is generally a minimum of 4 seats, or actually, excuse me, a maximum of 4 seats, and it's me and you and somebody else that can go along the way and be picked up. It is a demand response model that we actually perform right now. Uber XL can take up to 6 people and is the higher ended vehicles, and a requirement for Uber XL, I believe, is you got to have leather and some amenities inside your vehicle, so that make it a better looking ride. So I did our comparative, $73.14 an hour, compared to the Uber X and the Uber XL from a central point in Evansville to Washington Regional or Washington County Medical Center. And it came down to really, if you look at the cost per rider per trip, at the bottom line, the highlighted, Uber X would require 3 vehicles to make that 12-person trip occur. It's $20.35 per trip per person. Uber XL, which would take 2 vehicles to go ahead and make that 12-person trip occur, is $23.73 per person. OZARK Regional Transit, which would take 1 vehicle to make that trip occur, is $14.20. So the conversation about us being overpriced, us being non-competitive, that hopefully answers the conversation in the open market conversations I think you had, Mr. Duncan. So thank you very much for actually allowing me to explore that. The next question is, what are ORT's income sources? On the page after that, ORT's income sources from 2015 to 2019 are detailed. Rental car revenue is detailed, federal. There's rural, urban, and job access reverse commute, which is no longer a grant that exists after 2015, so that will actually drop off next year. What our fare box estimate and revenue is, our charter estimate and revenue, our local governments combined, that's everything from the 5,000 that Farmington does to the 426,000 that Fayetteville does, and everything in between. Northwest Arkansas Community College, what they used to provide as a share match Contract revenue is anything that we're doing, like I had talked about before, where we're doing maintenance with groups like Elizabeth Richardson Center, that type of thing. Bus ad and billboard revenue, we've got a program in on any given year at $60,000, and then miscellaneous revenue, and that usually comes in from the sale of old vehicles when we scrap things out, that type of things. The expenses all the way across the board, so hopefully that thoroughly answers that question of what our revenue sources are. And please provide us with ridership statistics. That was another thing. And the ridership statistics are provided on a monthly basis. But I wanted to provide you with the county ridership statistics for 2019 and 2018. And this is just a snapshot right out of August's last report that was sent to you. And it shows the demand response trips that we've done year to date so far in 2019 and the total done for 2018. If you look, we've done 4 in Elkins, we've done 435 in Fayetteville, Washington County, 5, and you're gonna go, whoa, wait a minute, so we're only going for 5 trips. No. When we look at rural demand response, it's anything outside the urban area, and believe it or not, when you look at some of the addresses that we deal with, it is out there on Dirt Road 12, but it has Fayetteville, Arkansas attached to it. Or we can't even get anything other than a county road number off of somebody's address, and they have no real physical address. And that's where we end up with Washington County 5 trips, where we really can't pinpoint anything because there's no point of reference. So when you see a town attached to it, that's the closest town that an individual's alleged address is in, that they get a reference point from. So that's where we've done for ridership for 2019 and 2018. And the last update was, Mr. Lemming, you had made a comment that you were going to visit with people in your towns and you would have some communication back to me the next time I come back. Were you able to do that, sir?
I talked to the mayor in Lincoln a little bit about it, and he wasn't really impressed with it, and
And what is it, sir, please?
the bus rides, the trips to Lincoln, and the bus was coming out there sitting and wasn't nobody riding it.
And now, sir, what time frame are we talking about? Because
At one time, you was coming in the mornings, like you'd be there like at 7:45 or.
that was 3 years ago, sir, when we were doing fixed routes.
Well-
Right now, our buses, if you look at Lincoln right now in our ridership in 2019, we have done 0 trips, so I would not waste the money to send a vehicle out there to do absolutely nothing. And again, I don't distrust that people are seeing a white bus sitting out there. We're not the only white buses in the area. There are a plethora of other agencies that have buses that are a lot like ours. The only difference is ours says ORT on the side. So I want to make sure we're talking about the right buses. So I apologize for interrupting, but I wanted to get that feedback.
I'll be talking to Doug and Sonny more, and I'll get you some feedback.
Outstanding. Thank you very much. And have them call me directly, sir, if you would, please, or email us in a group chain. Thank you, sir. Ma'am, that is my report. I'm just here to
that's your
follow up.
report. Oh,
Yes,
okay.
ma'am.
Thank you. Okay, we do have questions. All right, JP Duncan?
Yes, sir.
Thanks for making the Uber comparison. I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
I'm just curious, have you ever had 12 people ride from Evansville?
Can I tell you the truth right now?
Yes.
I never knew Evansville existed until I had this question about people wanting to come from Evansville to Washington Regional Medical Center.
Okay.
I did not know that there was an Evansville, Arkansas.
Okay, I was
That's
just
the
curious.
truth.
I looked it up. There's 167 people in Evansville so that'd be 14% of their population
The
riding the bus
question-
at once.
I don't know
So that
who
was
we
an
got the
interesting
question
example.
from. Jeff,
It was the chief of staff, and I can't remember his name.
Chief of Staff Gales asked? Okay, so the Chief of Staff Gales asked us to do a comparative trip from Evansville, 12 people going to Washington County Medical Center.
Okay.
So,
Interesting.
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
JP Pond?
Yes, as
Sir.
you brought up there are other buses in the area.
Yes, sir.
There are some and I don't really know how many. There are some nonprofits that do some of this same kind of work, that have wheelchair lifts and that sort of thing. As you mentioned, there are others, and apparently some of these folks, if they call you and they're not able to get a ride from you, they do have some people that are calling to pick them up.
That's a very big possibility, sir. We have a tendency to go ahead and get the trips that, if it's and I hate picking on the name Elizabeth Richardson, but Elizabeth Richardson serves a very specific group of individuals. Senior centers service a very specific group of individuals. If you don't fall into that profile, then you don't get service from them. If you don't have Medicaid, you don't get service from the Medicaid providers. If you don't have certain things lined out as a user, you don't get up. That's where we end up picking up the difference, I guess is the best way to put it.
I wasn't, I don't have a lot of information on it or anything, but I know that they're picking up people of demand response, because I've seen the buses.
Yes, sir.
And so there are alternatives, and the reason that we don't know anything much about them, except we see the buses, is we're not subsidizing any of them with county money. Probably the cities are not either.
I don't know their budgetary process, sir. I don't.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, JP Deakins?
Thank you, sir,
Sir.
I understand your passion, and I appreciate you being here. Can
Yes,
you
sir.
tell me, this table here of ridership?
Yes, sir.
It compares 2018 to 2019.
Yes,
What
sir.
time frames are those?
2018 is the entire year. 2019 is year to date.
So it'd be for something here recently. I mean, year to date, you're talking about like the end of last month?
To end of August, sir. Yes, sir.
So let me ask you this in a grand scheme of things. Is the demand response to the rural part of the county, is that feasible? That's my problem with it. Is it feasible? Because, I understand the ambiguity of the addresses and things like that you're saying where, and I mean, I live in a rural part of the county. My address is Springdale. But there's no way I could justify this with that Washington County line item. I mean, my whole district is unincorporated for the most part. And it's hard for me to go back and sell this to the citizens of my district. You know what I mean? Like, we have a data gap there for sure.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
But the feasibility, I would say, would have to be something that you would have to look at from a multitude of layers. Is it feasible to go ahead and spend because we have 59 individual riders year to date, and if we took the total of 22,970, divided it by the 59 riders, that's a household dedication of $389.32 per household that we're doing, because that's the individual rider households that we're serving right now, 59 of them. So the question that I throw back is it feasible to spend the $430-something on the household that is using the service to keep them in their household so that they are viable tax-paying citizens of the county or the community in which they live in? Or does it now become something where that senior has to move into another area? What happens with that property? Do we lose that property tax base? What are we losing by not keeping people in their homes? There's the feasibility of it is, what service are we willing to provide our citizens? It's the same question that when Jeff challenged me with a statement earlier on that says, this type of question may come up. And of course, then I start looking at, okay, let's pick a random spot in Washington County. Let's do a study on the average cost annually per mile to grade a road. So I take a look at Orr Road between Illinois Chapel Road and 265. It's 2.6 mile stretch of road. The annual or the hourly cost nationwide right now, with no additional amenities added to a grading, is $6,500 per mile average. That's mobilization, demobilization, everything else. So that 2.6 miles costs $16,900 annually to grade that 2.6 miles. There are 12 residences that are on that road, which is now $1,408 per household to grade a road. So now, we're spending $16,000 annually on 12 households, where on the other side, you're spending $22,970 annually on 59 individual households. So, to answer the question, the feasibility, what is feasible, what isn't feasible?
And I guess it gets back to, in my mind, the main hurdle I can't get past is I by no means want to make choices in people's lives. You're free to
Exactly.
live wherever you want to in the county. The hangup is there are services available in certain parts of the county that are not available in other parts of the county.
Yes, sir.
By just strictly feasibility. And I don't know that this makes sense to continue this on-demand service to these rural areas.
And that is your choice.
Correct.
I mean, that is the quorum court's choice. Ozark Regional Transit was put together 20-plus years ago by the county judge of Benton County, Washington County, the 4 city mayors at the time. Total
Yeah.
of six folks got together and said, we need to put this authority together.
Sure.
And at any point in time, a community can say, I want to be part of Ozark Regional Transit Authority, and at any point in time, a community can say, I want to be out of Ozark Regional Transit Authority.
Right.
And this is, year after year, I've come back here and I've said, will you give money? The question is no longer, will you give money? The question is, do you want to even have a transit system for the rural people of Washington County? If you don't, let me know, because I can take those assets, those personnel, and I can put them out to other areas where I can do less overtime, and I can actually start consolidating my work, and I can put vehicles where they need to be, as opposed to sending somebody out to Evansville, if we ever get the phone call out there, which I didn't even know existed. But
Gotcha.
if as a quorum court, you don't want the rural transit, all you gotta do is tell me. I'm your servant. I run your transit system. You guys, by proxy, hired me to do your bidding.
Great. I appreciate it.
And I know my place.
And I appreciate your sincerity.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, J.B. Lemming?
I just want to make a comment to Orr Road. Orr Road turns into another road, goes way on out in the county, and there's probably 200 households on that whole road.
Again, I'm taking a patch, sir.
Well, I know,
Just
you're making that look real bad, and it's not.
Well, it's just
Thank you.
Just
Thank
like
you.
the other
Alright,
comments that are placed on our end.
Let's not argue, please. Okay, we appreciate, we're not gonna make a decision
No,
on
ma'am.
that tonight.
No, ma'am, I was not expecting one.
And, because we've got other things to do.
Yes, ma'am.
And we'll have this discussion later.
Yes, ma'am.
And, we'll see you in the future.
And if there are
Thank
any
you.
questions, again, everybody should have my email address, and by all means, send the questions my way, because I will respond again. Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very
Okay,
much.
thank you. All right, that's an issue that we need to discuss later, on, transit. All right, let's get on with our budget tonight. We have Judge Martin with his, budget. That is in your budget book, that is 440.
Hey,
How are you tonight, Judge?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine.
I don't have a report.
You don't have a report?
No, ma'am. I'll
Well,
answer
maybe-
questions.
You know, I have a couple of questions because you have some, he only has increased his budget $2,320 from last year.
Who's that?
You.
Oh, okay.
And, but you have added 3 line items that you didn't have last year. And that was meals and lodging, $800, training and education, $700, and then the support, software support maintenance agreement was $100. Those were and mileage went from $100 to $500. You know, would you like to sort of explain your reasoning on increasing these?
Yes, ma'am. I was lucky enough to inherit Miss Joni as my TCA that worked for Judge Smith for 26 years, I think, and then she finally retired, and so I replaced her, and the new TCA has to go down to, Little Rock for training, I think only once a year, but that's the only
Well, those were
increase I can think of.
increases. $800 is not a lot.
Well,
Now,
and part of it may have been, I think our jury, feeding the juries, and, you know, it would have been helpful if I'd have brought some glasses, but the cost of feeding our juries went up whatever amount we asked for the increase, which
well, the
$600 or
jury and
$700.
witnesses, you have $15,000
I'm sorry.
budgeted for that.
I'm sorry, ma'am.
I said you had $15,000 for jurors and witnesses. And some of them, they have food. You've got food at $500. Over last year, you've got a total of $3,000 for food. It was $2,500 last year. You increased it by $500.
I think we just had a lot more jury trials, or so far, we've had a lot more jury trials this year. I think it was last year.
Okay.
Maybe it was 2 years ago, we only had like 2. Or maybe it was
Okay.
last year.
All right, JP,
Just a
Ecke.
quick comment, being in food service, I know the cost of food has gone up exponentially. Everybody's kind of with a jaw drop, how much food costs. It's gotten ridiculous. So I understand that that's
Okay.
possible. If we want to nitpick, he can turn in all his
Well,
receipts and do
you know,
it.
I'm just looking at the increases. I'm,
Yeah.
not questioning.
Everybody will tell you food has gone up a whole lot in the last 3
Okay,
years.
are there any other questions? I do have, okay, JP Deakins.
Get in line.
Get in line, go on.
Thank you, sir. I just, for some comparability to me being new on the court, through 6/30 of this year, you've only spent $6,500. That tells me that you have some pretty big backloaded expenses in the year. Could you walk me through any of that, or what we're looking at to finish this year out? You have a budget approval of $34,500.
All right, tell me what you're looking at now? Oh, 2019 expenditures through June?
Yeah. I'm looking at $6,500 and change. You have a budget of $34,500 and change, and I'm just wondering, we're about to hit 28 grand of expenses, if I'm reading that right.
Oh, thank you. Yes, ma'am, thanks very much. Mr. Deakins?
Yes, sir.
I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know why, what comes at the end of the year, taxes or something? I mean, I'm trying to be funny, but I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know why we're only to that amount here in August or September, and
Okay,
Well,
I'll look into it.
Let me say this, and this is probably for the public too. Hard for me to justify any kind of a budget increase when we can't answer questions about the budget we have in front of us right now. You know what I mean? It's just,
Yeah, I mean, I could have
we've
gone to
got
my
a tough-
son's
we've got a really tough job. And
open house tonight
yeah, I've
instead,
sacrificed
but-
time away from my
Yeah,
family and
yeah, me
stuff
too.
to go through this book. And so
Uh-huh.
it would be nice just to have some basic questions answered. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
okay, you have a $2,320 increase. I do have a question, and I'm glad that Judge Zimmerman is here. In revenue, the Circuit Court Automation Fund has $196,000, $785 in it. And this can be used for technology and court-related materials. Can we charge the software support management agreement to the automation fund in each one of these budgets? All right, we're going to subtract $100 then from this budget to go, and as we do the other budgets, there will be other computer information or charges in other budgets in the circuit court. This was the only one that Judge Martin had. So, okay, yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Judge Martin, did you prepare this budget, or did your assistant prepare it for you?
My assistant, meaning my TCA, trial court
TCA.
assistant, she did. I mean,
Okay.
we discussed it, but she actually did prepare it for me.
Yeah, there's a difference between, and all due respect, maybe she needs to answer the questions, but.
I'm happy to send her down here. Like I said,
That'd
I'm
be
missing my
great.
son's open
Why don't we do
house.
that, and then I'm almost moving to table this till our next meeting, so that way we have all the information we really need.
Well, we only are talking about 22. I
Well,
mean,
there's more than that. There's other questions, and the difference of what J.P. Deakins brought up, and where is this money, and
Okay.
what are you expecting?
Do I have a second to this motion? No, okay. JP, Eva Madison.
I didn't make a motion. I said I'm getting ready to.
Okay, excuse me.
Well, I'll say this. I don't think we're going to solve the county's budget crises by questioning a $500 increase in the judge's food budget. I'm familiar with the work of our circuit court judges. I'm very familiar with their budgets over the years. I know that Judge Martin, I think it was Judge Martin, it may have been Judge Threet, came to us because of an increase in the jury trials that they'd had. And they do feed the jurors. That's the one minor thing they do for the jurors. But I know that a lot of the expenses they have throughout the year, like how many jury trials you have, are very unpredictable. I would just think that we passed hundreds of thousands of dollars in budgets last night without any question, so I don't really know why we're giving poor Judge Martin the extra grilling. So I would move to pass this budget as part of the process.
All right, with the amendment that we remove the computer, with
I will
the
accept-
$100
We'll move the $100 to
to
the
go
automation
to
fund.
automation. All right, is there a second? All right, I have a second. All right, all those in favor of passing this budget on, passing this budget for the budget? Okay, say aye. Aye. All those opposed?
No.
All right, raise your hands. All those that want to pass this budget, raise your hands. All right. Those that do not. Budget pass. It's 7-5. All right. Thank you,
Okay, thank you.
Judge Martin. Hope you come back.
Well, maybe
All
I'll
right.
go on.
All right, we're ready. Okay, Judge Treat is teaching class tonight. Treat. All right, we have computer equipment, $250, and software support of $1,750, of a total of, what?
Is that not on the, that's not on the agenda. I don't see that item.
He's a judge, and and we need, if he's, okay.
I'm sorry, I'm just confused. I thought we were following the agenda.
Well, I came prepared to do all the judges, and he was not on the agenda because he's not here. Okay, I will, okay. Judge STACEY Zimmerman. She's 443.
Justices, I have a request to make. Judge Taylor is here tonight, and she has one budget. Hers is very straightforward. I have 3 different budgets. So could I turn the floor over to her so she can
Yes, that would
present?
be fine.
Thank you.
This must be yours.
Good evening.
All right, you are 449. I mean, that's page that your budget's on. All right, you have a modest increase, but you also have some computer-related materials that I think could come out of the automation fund. You have $1,000 on line item 2009, and $750 on 3102. And I would like to move those to the automation fund.
It's fine with me.
Okay, so, wait a minute, we have, no, that's 1,000, okay. Food is an increase.
Yes. As you know, I hear 25% of the criminal docket, and there's no way for me to predict how many jury trials we're going to have in a year. We have had a number of jury trials this year. I didn't count the actual number or the actual number of days that we were in trial this year. But what I did was I looked back over the actual expenditures that we've had for the 7th Division since 2011 when I took office. And that year, my budget was $56,650, and we spent $25,763. The next year, my budget was the same, and we spent $22,251.62. The next year, we just spent $12,047, and I had decreased my budget that year and have decreased it every time there's been a request, and have even decreased it a number of times when there has not been a request, because I really want my budget and the amount of money that I request from this venerable body to be reflective of the actual expenses. And since this was a new division, it has just taken some time to come up with an idea of what the expenses are going to end up being. A couple of years ago, in 2018, I had to come back and ask for extra money because all the computers in my office had to be replaced at the same time. And you very generously gave that money, and we use those computers daily. I don't know when that will happen again. We're at the mercy of IT when they come in and say we need this equipment, or when we need an update. And that year in 2018, when we had those expenses, our actual expenses were $43,892. I have this year spent, as of August 19th, 2019, spent $20,845 out of my budget of $35,281. I'm asking for the increases in the areas of food for the jurors, in the area of juror expense, which I believe is reimbursed by the state ultimately.
Yes,
or a part of it,
or
or
at
a
least
part
most
it is.
of it, and
Mhm.
that was a big increase there in your budget of
Yes,
$5,000.
I went from $15,000 to $20,000 on that, hopefully to accurately reflect what we will be spending. Only one year have I gone over $20,000, and that was in 2018. 2018 was a big year for jury expense, evidently. And then I have also increased the mileage and travel expense, because it is very important, especially with e-filing, that my trial court assistant and my court reporter attend what we call the ACAP conference, which is a conference in Little Rock that's put on by the Administrative Office of the Courts, and it's about all of the new programs, any of the new programs that come in over the year, and how to work the programs and how to generate the reports that we use to see how our docket controls are working. And it's important for both of them to go to that. Additionally, the court reporters are now having to do some electronic appellate brief filing, and this year was a big year for them to talk about that at the ACAP conference. So I asked my court staff to attend those meetings. I believe that was a 2.5 or 3 day conference in Little Rock, and so those expenses went up as well. So those are the expenses that I've asked for, and I've tried to adjust all of the expenses in my budget to reflect the higher amounts that have been spent through the years, just so it's a realistic budget. And I believe I've been a good steward of the county's money during the time that I have been in office, and most years I come in way under budget. Some years I come a little closer or even have to come back for extra money, but this gives the cushion that I don't have to worry about telling my trial court assistant that she can't go to a program that she needs to go to, or my court reporter that she can't go to the National Court Reporters Association meeting where they actually discuss and train on the software that she uses in court every day. So that's the
Well,
reason for the increases in my docket,
You know,
in my
your
budget.
budget's down a little bit, $1,750, that we'll transfer that computer technology out of your budget to the automation fund. Do I hear a motion?
Second.
I have a question for you.
Oh, okay, me or the judge? Okay.
It pertains to this and the other judges. I'm going to assume that you've already calculated and determined that these expenses you're putting on the automation.
Yes, I have.
Okay, that's what I assumed, but
I
I'd
went
rather.
through all the judges' budgets and underlined and took those items out for the automation fund.
I certainly don't mind being spoon-fed. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay. We have a motion and a second to accept Judge Taylor's budget with the elimination of, or the transfer of her computer technology to the automation fund. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed?
I do have one question about that.
Yes.
When purchasing, I guess since those line items have been moved to the other budget, purchasing will send those invoices to
the
Judge
automation.
Zimmerman to okay them to be paid out of that fund? Or
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
Just checking. Sometimes I don't know why we're being sent the bills we're being sent, but we managed to get them paid, so, all right. Thank you very much.
Okay. Judge Zimmerman? So, first thing on the agenda is that we would like for you to move your new positions, and if we have funding at the end of the budget process, then those positions will be funded. But we needed to get our reserves to 3 million, and to do that, we had to say no raises and no new positions. So, that's a big chunk of your budget, so, thank you. Yes, Eva?
The committee hasn't voted on that issue, so I would really like to hear from folks who are asking for those expenses, so we can decide. So, I would like to hear that.
We either.
Well, I know that's what you
Okay,
want, and
I understand where you're
respectful of that,
coming from,
but I think we should make the
I'm
decision.
also, they need to be aware that they may not be funded.
I think everybody that comes is aware that anything could change, because that's the way it's happened, so.
All right, thank you. All right,
Madam Chair, can I start with the little budgets first?
yes.
Okay, so the Court Automation Fund, recently there have been new equipment items purchased for the various circuit courts, the 7 circuit courts, and it's basically a monitor where you can have parents that are in the prison, your witness or your defendant by prison, and that equipment has been paid for through the Court Automation Fund. And so I think that your suggestion to pay some of these other computer-related items in the various budgets is great. We have plenty of money in there. I think that's a perfect thing to do.
Okay,
So,
it's not in our budget book. The budget, the amount is on page 3.3-1.
487,
Is it 487?
that's it. That's it. And so we purchased that equipment for the 7 different courts, so you're going to see a big chunk of money used for that, but we do have a good amount of money, and I think that the items that you talked about in Judge Martin's budget and Judge Taylor and any others that come before you has to do with automation in courts, I think we can pay it out of there. And what happens is they send me as the administrative judge the invoice, and then I send that on, approve it for purchasing to pay.
Okay.
So then my next, are we ready to move on?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
The next budget request is I'm the administrative judge, so I have presented the request from the court reporter that handles the court reporting at the 8.1 hearings at the jail.
Right.
And that's Martha Brown.
Court reporting service.
And I believe that might be Fund 1000.
That's for,
I don't know.
yeah, just a minute. What, 464? It, Miss Patty, what number do you think it's on?
464. Is it 440?
The judges are the 440s. Should have put these together.
Well, the amount that the contract that Martha Brown has, 440, sorry,
Okay,
440.
it's on 440,
Okay,
yes.
440. And that's Martha Brown. She's been doing it for several years. The approved budget for 2019, $18,720. She sent me, and I believe each of you on the quorum court, a request, a letter dated August 19th, 2019, where she is requesting that she have an increase in salary in the amount of $27,300.
464.
Her justification letter's in 518.
Okay, so this is
And if I'm
increase in salary.
Right. She has a contract with the county. And
Right.
last year, her contract was $18,720.
Correct.
She reports at the county jail 3 days a week, Monday,
Right.
Wednesday, Friday mornings.
Right.
And so brainstorming about how we can save money, Judge Taylor and I had visited about the circuit judges go down there on Friday mornings to hear those.
Right.
They could take their own court reporter.
Okay.
And you could keep paying Martha the $18,700, no increase, and then that Friday morning, the circuit judges that already have their court reporter could report that day. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And,
So she would get a
thank-
raise by not having to
Not
report on
having to
Friday
go
morning,
because-
but
yes.
it wouldn't be an
But-
additional outlay to the county. So that
Correct.
might be a suggestion.
Okay, that is a good suggestion,
So
if that
would save
is-
about $9,000 or something.
Right. All right. Okay, JP Duncan had a question first.
No, go ahead. Recognized you.
Yeah, so just going back to the 4-87, sorry, on the automation fund, sorry to go backwards on everybody here, but similar question that JP Deakins had earlier, looking at like expenditures year-to-date, or I guess through 6/30. So first 6 months of the year, your sorry, scratch that. Your burn rate's right at 50%. That was a previous one.
Okay.
Scratch that.
JP, anyone else have a question? All right, now, yes,
Thank you. I don't know about the rest of the court, but I did not get a letter from Martha requesting a pay raise or increase for her salary. Now, if we
it's.
go along with this, but
I think it's in
if we
the
were
back
emailed,
here.
that she says we were emailed a letter. I'm just stating I didn't get my letter. And there are several documents that are sent, but they can't deliver it I don't know if anybody's having a Microsoft full, that your emails are being jammed. My emails are getting jammed. I don't know
Okay,
why.
well-
But, Judge Zimmerman, did we
Yes.
get an email from Martha explaining? Is
I
that what
don't
you
think-
said?
No.
Yes,
It's in here. It's in here.
It's a letter dated August 19th, sent it to me by email, and it says Washington County Quorum Court. Dear Judge Zimmerman.
I know,
It's-
yes, but I
it's
just
in here.
wanted to make sure that if none of us got it, then I understand. But if I was the only one that didn't get it, I want to know so that way I can go to Sydney and in IT and say, can you look at this again?
I think it was sent to the quorum court and it was put in our packet. I don't think we individually,
I
I've
just
seen it.
wanted to know.
Because I read through the budgets, prior, you know, if you've read all the support material on the back, then it's in there.
Yes, but I just had a question if it was emailed, because I'm having problems. There, I get about 3 mail delivery failures, and a lot of my emails are getting jammed. It says you can't because your Microsoft is full. Everything is trashed out, nothing that's empty, but just wanted to know if this is a process that others were experiencing. That's all I want to know. Thank you. Sorry to waste your time.
No, would you like to get a copy of it while I'm here? Oh, you do?
It's in the back.
Okay. Well, I just assumed she emailed me one. I'm guessing she emailed it to you all, but I don't know.
Okay. On the court recorder, I don't, we would have to have a motion to do that, and I don't know that that is, I'm going to postpone that until later, until she can respond that this is satisfactory.
Okay,
I will, so we'll postpone a decision on that.
all right.
All right.
And then Justice Duncan, did you have a question about the automation fund? I
No,
borrowed
you're
hers.
good.
Okay,
I
I'm going to give this back before I lose it. And the next little budget is the one, I believe it's 0446, Circuit Court Juvenile Division. I don't know what page that is in your
page?
packet.
I don't. No, it's not 446.
443.
It's not 443 either.
Circuit Court 3.
No,
She said it was a little one.
this is our main budget.
No, it's the one that we collect juvenile court probation fees of $20 per month. And it looks like, Ms. Norma, could you help me here?
Just a minute, I think, Patty, do you know the number? Because, Shannon?
4-108 is the page number.
4-108, thank you. Yes, okay.
For the next meeting, can we have the page number listed next to the item on the agenda? And then maybe even, like, I don't know if it's too much to put into a PowerPoint or a PDF. That'd be nice to be able to, like, click through, and then we don't have to do this thing where we're jumping around as much. Thank you.
Well, I apologize because I didn't realize there were 3 minor budgets that went with Judge Zimmerman's presentation. I've gone through these and I've seen them, but I didn't realize that she would be giving those budgets tonight. So I apologize for not having it together. All right, Judge Zimmerman, we're on 4-108.
Okay. All right, so that's our main budget. And
No changes.
You're still back to the, okay. So we have it listed, and I don't have page numbers, so I'm sorry I'm throwing
okay.
everybody up. I just have the department, and then it says 0446, Circuit Court Juvenile Division, and then it says general supplies, food, total supplies.
Yeah.
Requested budget, and it has $3,000 for food, and total supplies, $550.
Correct.
All right? And so, out of, is that right?
Food is 5,500, 3,000 for supplies.
No, that's
for a
the
total of 8,500.
8,500 for food and supplies?
Okay,
And that is not a change from last year. It's
Right.
just across the board.
do
the
we,
same.
okay, do I hear a motion that we go on and pass the Circuit Judge Juvenile Division? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right,
Now the big one.
4-108 is passed. All right, are we back? Okay. We're back to the 443.
All right, so we had requested 2 new positions, and I understand from coming to Tuesday night's meeting that that's something that you would like to blanket across the board, no new positions and no increases in salary. So,
Correct.
but we'd already submitted our budget, so that is part of the reason for the increase. We were asking for 2 new intake positions, one for delinquency intake and one for fins intake. And as you know, the reason our budget is much bigger than the other judges is because we have a staff of 18 different juvenile people in our court, 16 juvenile officers. The state of Arkansas reimburses juvenile court officers' salary up to $15,000 a year. And currently, we have 16 juvenile officers and 2 other staff people. The social worker that we talked about the other night, which we are having a hard time filling, and an administrative assistant. We also have, so I understand that you're wanting to take that 2 new position out of the budget. And then we have some increases, and we'll start with the salaries part-time. Salaries part-time, we have 1 juvenile officer at all times that has a pager that gets calls from all law enforcement across Washington County when a juvenile is arrested. And that juvenile officer takes the call, whether it's at nighttime, morning time, and they have to decide based on criteria if that juvenile is going to be detained and placed in our juvenile detention center. We don't know how much overtime that is. If the phone doesn't ring that night, I can tell you last night it rang quite a bit. We had a rapist, or alleged rapist in the arrested last night. Our detention hearing included 2 kids that had firearms and were discharging handguns in Washington County. So we never know how many calls we get. That's the overtime. And so we budgeted a little more. We went up from 8,100 to 9,000. Drug testing, we test a lot of kids and parents. Our drug testing, medicine and drugs, line item 2004, $2,800. We went up $300 on that.
Okay,
And to answer Justice Deakins' question about why we're not at midway, we usually get, by the end of June, we've spent about half of what's been allotted for the whole year. For some reason, we haven't spent as much as I thought we would up to this point.
We have up to this, up to this month, we have spent the medicine and drugs. That's also our medicine kit, or first aid kit. So that's encumbered throughout the year. So some months it goes a little bit higher than others.
Okay.
But it just goes up and down depending how many drug screens we send out.
Then the other item that we're asking for that we didn't last year, $1,000 for tires. We bought an SUV out of our juvenile probation fees. We bought the vehicle with that, and it's needing tires. So that's an increase of $1,000. That wasn't on our budget last year. Computer equipment. The computer equipment is for one of our 16 officers. So I don't see that as in-court automation. I mean, I guess we could stretch it and say it's part of a court umbrella. I might want to ask the county attorney and Justice Madison what their thoughts are on that. That might be something we could also move to the automation fund, because it has $194,000.
Yes.
All right, and then,
I have it marked.
okay. Other professional services, Ms. Frisbee can tell you a little bit about that as to why we're asking for a $1,500 increase.
If you can actually compare the previous years, other professional services pays for staff that, or instructors that come into our various programs. With our youth reporting center is where most of our instructors come in and they get reimbursed for any classes they teach. We also have our Creating Lasting Family Connections class, and we pay 4 instructors from that. Now, that varies during the summer. We don't have those classes, so that might be why during the summer we slow down, but during the spring and the fall, towards the end of the year, it picks back up. It also depends how many hours they spent there. We also have Girls Circle. Because we do not have the social worker, we've had to contract out a master's level social worker to continue our Girls Circle program. So that just kind of goes up and down. We had a staff that went on maternity leave, and we also had to hire a like a contract caseworker to help us with the fence department. That took a chunk of our money this year. And so the increased caseloads that we're getting, if you see the previous years, it just goes up and down with other professional service. It depends how many staff we have, well, not staff, but instructors or caseworkers we have to pay throughout the year.
Judge Zimmerman, what about 3102, the $15,000 on software? You think that could possibly come out of the automation fund?
I think that it could. Norma, does that include some of our laptops, because
No,
our
ma'am.
officers that have the pager at night have a laptop?
No, ma'am, that software support maintenance is our right track.
Oh.
And every month we pay them, I believe it's almost $1,200. We do split the cost with the juvenile detention center because the database is shared between the two. So the first 6 months, JDC pays for the maintenance fee, and the last 6 months, we pay for the rest. It also covers any maintenance that has to be done to the database throughout the year, any additional reports that we need to update or create.
So Right Track is a database for a juvenile that comes into our system. It's different than their court case docket. And it'll tell where the kid lives, their parents, the information of where they are in school, where they've been inpatient, where they've gone to drug treatment, and it's our internal system that we bought several years ago. So that's what that is, Right Track. So I don't think that could come out of the automation fund. That's a more internal tracking the information for the kids. Now, if Ms. Madison and Mr. Lester say we could do it from there, I'd be comfortable if they thought we could pull it out of
Well,
the
it's,
automation fund.
it would help if we could.
Yes,
Okay.
it would. So we'll put a question mark on that, and we can.
Okay,
May I, please? Madam Chair?
J.P. Ecke.
Thank you. Judge Zimmerman, as far as the automation fund is concerned, do you have the guidelines or restrictions or what it is for, what it's not used for?
Well, the way I read it, it's for automation in the courts, to
But
automate.
is it available online, or is this procedures that were written by the state? I'm just wanting to know what the guidelines were to
Well,
that.
when I was given the baton as senior judge and administrative judge, I was told that it was to use in the courtroom for equipment. So
Okay.
microphones, the little various monitors to have parents from the prison
Sure.
that sort of thing. Court reporters have needed new equipment, they're in the courtroom, that covered it.
I guess where I'm getting to is the genesis of the automation fund. When they handed off the baton to you, was there a written manual? Was there anything that disclosed this is what it's for?
Nope.
Nope.
Nope. So that might be something that Mr. Lester, as our county attorney, could look
All
at.
right, okay, I just didn't know.
Oh, I turned it off. Sorry. Bobby Hill and I looked at this afternoon, and would you like to comment on that, Mr. Hill?
It can only solely be used for court technology. That's the.
Court technology is what can be used for.
Where the language is stated, I'm just wanting to look at it.
I don't have it with me.
And you don't have it in your back pocket?
Okay.
Okay.
I get it with me.
Thank you.
Okay. J.P. Deakins?
Thank you, Judge Zimmerman. I appreciate your preparation, and I'm going to ask questions no matter the magnitude of these dollars, even to the irritation of my fellow justices. And this is for my own edification of your process. Look at down there on line item 3070. It's rent, land, and buildings.
Yes.
What exactly is the rent we're incurring there?
That's for our evening reporting center.
Okay.
Remember, well, I don't know if you were the justice then. You're off. We were able to devise a evening reporting center downtown Springdale to combat the gang problem. And for the first year, the Jones Center gave us free rent.
Okay.
And now it's no longer free. So that houses our evening reporting center. That's in conjunction with the Teen Action Support Center that's on Emma Street, right across from the old Archer Learning Center.
Gotcha.
Can I add something to that? During that procedure, that was an additional money that the Quorum Court gave us. If you see back, 2017, we had $41,000 under other professional services. We actually cut that budget in half for the following year to be able to afford and pay the lease.
Gotcha.
So that money was never given additionally.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, listen, my questions are not an attack on
Right.
anyone's budget. I'm just doing this for my own edification so I
Sure.
can come out and explain this to other people.
That's a good thing.
Finally, and this is for you more globally as an administrative judge, it seems like these line items of meals and lodging is pretty volatile. It's hard to kind of peg that for any one person. I mean, your burn rate right now, you're at $77,000 at the end of the half a year. You're asking for 15. That makes sense to me. I'm just wondering, I guess that's just hard to budget for is what I'm seeing when I'm looking through these other I'm asking you to educate me as
Okay.
as an administrative judge.
So in our juvenile court budget, we have 16 juvenile officers. By law, they have to be certified. They have to go to certification training each year to keep their certification.
Gotcha.
So their meals and their hotel, when they go to Little Rock, or sometimes it's Hot Springs, to get their certification, that's something that's pretty constant. As our personnel has increased, then that's increased. I know that the other judges send, as Judge Taylor said, their staff for training on the Court Connect and other things like that. So that's why ours, I think, is bigger, because we have 16 juvenile officers.
Gotcha. And I'm a
Yeah.
big fan of training. I want to know what's behind these numbers. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Oh, one more thing, could I add? So when I go on a training, the AOC pays for our training. So that at least is a little bit of a savings where the state's picking up that tab.
Are there any other questions?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair. I do have a comment to make. I want to compliment you for not having spent money that was projected you might have spent by this time. And I always want to give people encouragement. I don't think we need to scold people for figuring out ways not to spend money they thought they might have had to. I'll be very tickled if you don't spend everything that you budgeted for by the end of the year. Thank you very much.
Thank you. May I add to that, Justice Pond? February 5th, I sent a letter to the Quorum Court and JSAP, and in that letter, I said that in our 2018 budget, our department had $56,708 in unspent money on salaries, $22,694.95 in unspent money in supplies and services, for a total of $79,403 that was returned to the general county fund. So we're not going to try to spend everything right before the December 30th. So we just try to.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
So,
I did want to make a comment, though. I hope you come back on October the 24th.
I have it on my calendar, and I just want to give you a preview about that. Because that's when the public defender and the prosecutor come in.
And I am inviting, and I have already invited some, but I'm going to get as many legislators that serve Washington County here, because I want them to hear why you need additional monies.
So, when the public defender comes in, I'm going to tell you that our public defender, one public defender that's assigned to juvenile court, he had, as of August 1st, 2019, 548 criminal cases. 548 cases. These aren't cases where he can just say, okay, plead the speeding ticket. These are kids. He has to explain their rights. He has to be ready to go for a trial. The prosecutors, we have 2 in juvenile court, just to preview, over 1,600 cases.
Okay.
So I'm just letting you
we know
Okay.
that we need additional people, but we also know that we don't have it in our budget at this time.
And I'll be
So,
looking forward to October.
okay.
You'll be ready.
Do I hear a motion that we pass Judge Zimmerman's and with her budget without the additional personnel at this time? And on the automation funds, that we look and move what we can.
I think that's a great idea. And I will talk to Martha Brown about seeing about not working on Friday and having the judges bring their own court reports. I think that might be about $9,000 savings.
Thank you.
Okay.
That would be appreciated. All those in favor in passing Judge Zimmerman's budget, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passed.
Thank you.
All right. Are there any okay, public comment. Does anyone have?
Are you gonna do your added budget?
Okay, yes. We're not ready for a public comment yet. JP Eva Madison is going to present revenues that the county has and expenses.
So this was a presentation that I gave when I was budget chair in 2017 for 2018. And I felt like after we struggled on Tuesday to sort of get a grasp on things, I offered to JP Harbison that I would do it again. And so I updated it over the past couple of days. So Ms. Patty, if you could go to the next slide. And interestingly, I didn't have to change the date. It was 2 years to the day I gave this presentation. Okay, so these are, and pretty much what I've done is I've highlighted the 4 major funds. And if you're wondering, Miss Patty will circulate this by email to everyone, so you will get a copy, and it will be available to the public as well. This is an explanation. You've got the first column showing carryover, which all of this information is in your budget books. I've just found that it's a lot easier to look at like this because you're sort of focusing on the big pictures. So you see what the revenue projections are for carryover in each of the funds. The total, we'll talk about that in just a minute, but then the new revenue you see in the second column is what the treasurer is predicting is to new revenue into each of those funds. So you get the total, then you have the 10% holdback, and so you've got the available to budget. And so the footnotes kind of explain a little bit of where all of that comes from, but if you go to the next slide, Patty. So this is actually the exact same table, it's just got a little bit more information to explain where the numbers come from. The road fund is actually gonna be, is 2 budgets collapsed. So you're gonna have not only the road fund, but also the half-cent sales tax that we've always separately budgeted. So that's 2 separate budgets. And then you're gonna see that new revenue in the road department is gonna include not only it's going to include all the revenue for the road department. That includes a chunk of the sales tax from the 1% sales tax. And then what's most important, though, is if you are probably JP Deakins looking at the column saying that does not add up, it's because that total is a total of all of the funds, not just those 4. It's just those 4 are where we spend the majority of our time when we budget. Okay, next slide. So the available column, again, these numbers are the same, so this is the same slide 3 times, but this available column, which is what we're shown as what we have to budget, does include all of our reserves and savings. And so if we in fact budget to all of those numbers, we will have $0 left if they spend their budgets. So that was one of the biggest things for me to understand when I joined the court, was available to budget is kind of misleading because it's not nearly the same as new revenue. And so if that's where we're getting into what our goal is for reserves. Okay, next slide. So this is again the same information with just this little footnote that is like JP Harbison. I believe her goal was $3 million in general fund reserves. And so what you would do is you would take that available to budget, subtract $3 million, and so then you would be working with that number. And I think this was kind of the big picture idea that JP Deakins was talking about, like, okay, let's look at how much money we want to budget, how much we want to have left over, and that's how we do it. So we could say we want $1 million in reserves. We could say we want $5 million in reserves, but that's the way you do the logic of the big picture items. Okay, next slide. So if you look at only new revenue, because that's been one of my goals as a JP, was to try to get our budget numbers closer to that new revenue figure so that it was in fact truly a balanced budget where you're only spending what you're newly taking in, and then whatever's left is truly savings. So if you only look at the new revenue though, like in the general fund, that $30 million figure, you cannot budget it all because you have to do the holdback. So, but I would say one of the things about the holdback that you figure out is you have to hold it back this year, but then you're also getting back the holdback from last year that you had to set aside, right? So in effect, it could still be a valid goal, assuming you've got some reserves and that available to budget is bigger. You could still say, I'll want to budget to the full 100% of new revenue, realizing you're taking last year's holdback. So I think you could go anywhere in there and it still be reasonable. Okay, next slide. So because I was pulling up my 2017 presentation on 2018 numbers, I thought it would be really interesting for you to see like a look back of what has changed over 2 years. And so what you're seeing is that we've had a steady decline in almost every category of carryover, which just means we're spending away our savings, which is what I was talking about. So you see the carryovers down $1.8 million in general. That's not because everybody spent all their budgets last year. That's because we spent the reserves to pay for the budget. And so what you see is revenue is up. New revenue is up quite a bit. I mean, not only in the general fund are you going to have increases in sales tax over 2 years, but you've got the millage increase that was done last year. You've got revenue up. The only thing the one bright spot in all this is I did say at least we can have a break on the insurance fund this year because that's green all the way across because sometimes that's not green. And in fact, in 17, it was not green. Okay, Ms. Patty. So these are the requested budgets, and what this is not with tonight's updates, so forgive me there. But this is what was the version 1 in your binders of that summary with the yellow highlighting that was dated 8/22 from the comptroller's office. So what you see is you've got that 2020 requested number for the funds, you've got the 2019 approved, and then you see the overall difference. So insurance is flat. Again, I think we can spare ourselves agony over the insurance fund, but you're going to see that every other budget is up. And then overall, we're looking at a $3.4 million increase over last year's budget. Okay, next. So this is a comparison to what Judge J.P. Harbison proposed as the chair of the committee. So you've got the comparison between that version 1, 8/22 of what was requested by all the departments compared to what she asked us to consider, which was to have no new employees and no new raises. Or no raises. So that results in a savings of about $1.3 million. But you still see we're over. Ms. Patty? Okay, so this is now a comparison to revenue versus requested budgets, and I'm going to show it to you in a few different ways, because you've got this notion of if you look at the new revenue, not including the holdback, so it's just flat new revenue, 100% of it, in each of the funds, what you're going to see is that in every category except for insurance, thank heavens, we're overspending new revenue based on the budgets, quite significantly. We've always had the issue with the jail fund being a little over, but now we've got, you know, a $5 million problem, almost $6 million.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is a comparison to the requested budgets to what's available to budget. And I finally decided when I got home after the meetings Tuesday night and I started on this presentation that I should go to sleep when the available matched to the dollar they requested, because I thought, I don't know how that's possible. I think my brain must be ready to shut down tonight. But then when I pulled it back out, I was like, that's right. Somehow, I think somebody had to intentionally do that. But somehow, the requested budgets to the dollar match our available revenue in the general fund. That might sound good, except if we budget all that and they spend it, we got nothing left. So insurance fund, doing okay. Road fund is actually doing okay too. But again, the jail is causing us some problems. So, yeah. And again, that is the comparison to 100% of what was requested, not with J.P. Harbison's recommended takeaways. Okay. So if we did all the budgets as requested, we would have a little in reserves left. And I don't quite know how that worked, but that's what the numbers showed. Obviously, we have more. If you look at total reserves, you're going to see a much bigger number and think, oh, that's not too bad. That's several $million. But they're funds that are usually dedicated. They're like the circuit clerk's automation fund or the circuit judge's automation fund. So it's not like if we have an $8 million reserve number that it's our $8 million. Those are really the funds that are the ones that we can use. So we would be talking just a little over $2 million in savings at the end.
Well, I think, you know, this gives all of you something to think about, and,
Just a couple more slides.
okay,
Yeah.
there's a couple more slides, okay.
So-
Just a minute.
I just wanted to share just a little bit about the revenue, so, because I found this helpful. The 1 cent sales tax is a large chunk of how we make general fund revenue. This was a countywide sales tax that we share with the cities that was enacted in 1981. We receive it based on the population from the census, so effective, right now we're under the 2010 census that gives us 18.4% of that sales tax. Right now, that's equating to about $8 million annually, not without the internet tax, so we'll see. But it's a general purpose revenue. It's at a historical split of 60-40, with 40% of that going to the road fund. We have tweaked that in the past, but in deference to our chair, who gets very upset about this, that's all I'll say.
Good.
Okay. Next slide. So this is what it looks like. So that's actually what the Treasurer's Office is predicting. That's that almost $8 million figure that our share of the 1 cent sales tax will bring in. So you see that go back, sorry. So you see that it's about 4.7 to the general with about 3 to the road. This is what I think we need to make sure we're thinking about. So this is where you can see how the population of the county has shifted from county to city from 2000 to 2010. The 2020 numbers, the treasurer provided to me those this afternoon. They are based on 2018 estimates, which were up from the 2017 estimates we were working with. Because in 2017, we were predicting more like a $1.5 million loss. And now, based on these 2018 estimates, it looks like it might be less, like a little bit more than 500,000. But he cautioned that he just is a little bit doubtful about whether those 2018 estimates are right, because it just doesn't seem like the population is really heading the way it shows. But we can cross our fingers that this holds to be true, because it would result in only a shift of like 1% in the loss of that sales tax, which would be a lot less of a blow, because in the 2010 census, we took a huge hit, and it took us 5 years for the revenue stream to catch up. So there was 5 years where we were in the hole effectively So we never really caught up in terms of overall. We did catch up, but it took us half the decade. Another thing to think about, this is not on this chart, but the road half-cent sales tax sunsets in 2023. The voters approved it, and it was only approved for 10 years. I know that the Highway Department, or Arkansas Department of Transportation, whatever we call them now, is working on renewing that. But I think it's something that we need to think about, because if it truly goes away, then the road fund loses between 1.7 and 1.8 million annually. So this is what we're taking in the millage, which is the secondary source of our general fund revenue. So we currently have our general millage set at 4.4. It's 5.0 maximum. The court does have the authority to raise that on its own without a vote of the people. The current approximate revenue is 14.2 million. We do get 100% of that millage. It is a tax on all county residents. The road millage, on the other hand, that's a 3 mil max that we only have 1.1. That's revenue that we share with our cities. And that's been a source of kind of some frustration over the years, because we share it on an odd percentage basis. But we're getting about 1.3 million on that. But we're only getting 35% of what the 1.1 mils bring in, because the remainder is going to the cities. So, oh, and then just one little note that Treasurer Hill shared with me. If you really get into the numbers, you're going to see that the millage revenue prediction is actually less than what it truly shows, because he only budgets, or he only accounts for 92%, because not everyone pays their taxes on time. So once you account for delinquents and then the costs of collection, he thinks 92% is the best number to go by. So if everybody pays their bills, we would have an extra $3 million. Next. And this is just some information on the millage so you can have an idea of what it equates to. So the millage had been reduced in 2011 by 0.5 mils to 3.9. It was restored last year to bring it to 4.4. We collect in arrears, but it's a weird thing. So even though we voted on it in November, that was the millage that we'll be collecting this year. So it's a strange way we do it, but you set it for the current year, and then it's collected in the following year. So that 0.5 increase that we did looks to bring in 1.9 million in additional revenue. If you increase 0.25, it would be half of that, 972,000. We have the power to add on another 0.6 that gets us to the state maximum. And if we increased from 4.4 to that full 5, it would bring in an additional 2.3. Not advocating for a tax increase, just so you know the facts, what the revenue sources are. And that's it. And Ms. Patty will share that by email with everyone, and I hope that was a little helpful.
Thank you very much, J.P. Madison. That was good, and there's no need to reinvent the wheel. She has it, and everybody needs to look at this, because it is information that's going to help you make decisions. Okay, J.P. Lemming.
Thank you, madam. That millage that you put back on is the one that they took off,
Right,
and we're trying to get back to where we was.
right.
Okay. Is that right or
Well,
wrong?
0.5.
Well, no, we had taken off 0.5 in 2011, and then we put that back last year. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
it's
done last
okay,
year.
yeah.
So
But there's
we
no
hadn't,
more to-
we really hadn't seen no effects. the
We'll
wave
see,
had-
we'll see it in this year's revenue.
Yes, right.
Yes.
Yeah, we hadn't
Yeah.
seen it till this year.
Right,
Right.
right.
Okay. All right, J.B. Bowman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. One thing that's just a glaring difference here. We have talked about going ahead and imposing this fee on the cities for the jail. And we're talking about probably somewhere in the range of a $1 million contribution to our funds through that deal. And we don't seem to be considering that at all.
Well,
And
I think we have to consider it.
I do too.
It's,
It's legislated by the.
it needs to be brought back, this is a budget meeting, but I think that needs to be brought back up at a jail meeting, and we need to discuss that again.
Okay.
It's on second reading.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
on,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
second reading,
Yeah,
okay.
All right, thank you.
Okay. We now, public comment, 12-minute period with 3-minute limit for each individual. Does anyone would like to make a public comments tonight? I see no one moving. Do I have a motion that we adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Oh, wait a minute. Oh,
Too late.
Too late, you can't do it.
Drop.
I know, I'll get it later.
I mean, you totally violate FOIA if you leave outside the meeting.
I know, I'm not meeting outside the meeting. There's a lot.